Commander Vextai had been monitoring primitive civilizations for 3 centuries, and Earth barely registered as a blip on the Galactic Development Index. Sure, the humans had managed to split a few atoms and launch some tin cans into space, but they were still burning fossil fuels and arguing about whether their planet was warming. Adorable, really. Status report. Vextai clicked, her mandibles twitching with barely contained amusement as she floated in the observation deck of the Eternal Judgment, watching the blue marble spin lazily below. Same as yesterday, Commander, replied Kef, her junior analyst. They're still shooting projectiles at each other, though they've gotten marginally better at it. Oh, and they've discovered something called social media, which appears to be designed to make them hate each other more efficiently. Vextai, Storax, vibrated with what passed for laughter among her species. Remarkable. They've weaponized their own communication systems against themselves, filed that under reasons for intervention along with climate destruction and resource wars. The hegemony had protocols for this sort of thing. When a species reached the threshold of self-destruction while possessing nuclear capability, a gentle conquest was authorized. Not extermination, mind you. That was terribly unfashionable. Just a firm but kind takeover, followed by a few millennia of guided evolution until the species was ready for true civilization. Prep the standard package, Vextai ordered. Simultaneous infrastructure disruption, communication blackout, and demonstration of superior firepower. Should take about 30 minutes to establish planetary compliance. Kef's secondary eyes blinked. Commander, our latest cultural analysis suggests they might surrender faster if we target their entertainment networks first. They seem unusually attached to something called streaming services. Brilliant. Add that to the list. Vextai stretched her 6 arms, joints popping with satisfaction. Sometimes I wonder why we bother with the formalities. They'll be grateful once they see what we can offer them. Clean energy, post-scarcity, economics, actual competent leadership. What Vextai didn't know, what none of them knew, was that 3 floors below in the ship's xenobiology lab, Dr. Thane was having a very different conversation with his research partner. Vextai is making a mistake, Thane whispered, his translucent skin flickering with nervous bioluminescence. The humans aren't what they appear to be. His partner, Dr. Lyra, looked up from her analysis console. Explain. I've been monitoring their quantum signatures for weeks. There's something underneath their electromagnetic chatter. Patterns that don't match any known biological neural network. It's like they're operating on multiple communication layers simultaneously. Lyra's expression hardened. You're suggesting they have quantum consciousness networking? That's impossible. Look at them. They can't even agree on basic facts about their own planet. That's exactly what makes it so elegant, Thane insisted. They're not communicating through their obvious channels. They're doing something else entirely. Something we've never seen before. But Lyra was already reaching for her. Come unit. I'm reporting this to the commander. We can't delay the operation based on your paranoid theories. 20 minutes later, Vextai stood in the war room, surrounded by holographic displays showing Earth's major population centers. Initiate Phase 1. All teams, engage. The first sign that something was wrong came 60 seconds into the operation. Commander, Lieutenant Zara's voice crackled through the tension bleeding through the translation matrix. Strike Team Alpha reporting. We've disabled their primary communication satellites, but they're still coordinating. Somehow. Vextai's head tilted. Clarify. Their military units are responding to our presence with perfect no radio chatter, no digital signals we can detect, but they're moving like they share a single mind. On the main display, Vextai watched, in growing unease as human military forces across 6 continents began executing coordinated maneuvers. Not good coordination. Perfect coordination. Inhuman coordination. Strike Team Beta. Report, she commanded. Similar situation here, Commander. We've taken out their power grids, but civilian populations are evacuating in patterns that suggest they knew we were coming hours ago. They're not panicking. They're single quotes, prepared. Vextai felt her first flutter of genuine concern. Impossible. Our approach was undetectable. Commander, Kef's voice was tight with barely controlled panic. I'm reading massive energy signatures from the planet's surface. They're activating something. Multiple somethings. The tactical display exploded with new data. Across Earth's surface, previously hidden installations were coming online. Not military bases. something else entirely. Structures that seemed to bend space around themselves, generating readings that made Vexthai's instruments scream warnings. "What are those?" she demanded. Dr. Thane's voice came through the com, thick with the awful satisfaction of being right. "Commander, I believe those are quantum consciousness amplifiers. The humans have been using their planet's electromagnetic field as a massive neural network. Every electronic device, every fiber optic cable, every radio wave, it's all part of a distributed consciousness system." Vexthai stared at the readings, her mind struggling to process what she was seeing. "You're saying they're all connected? All 7 billion of them?" "Not connected, Commander. Synchronized. There's a difference." The difference became horrifyingly clear in the next 60 seconds. Lieutenant Zara's scream cut through the comm chatter. "They're not just coordinating, they're adapting. My strike team's weapons are being countered by tech we've never seen before. It's like they're inventing new countermeasures in real time." Vexthai's primary arms began to shake. "How is that possible?" "Commander," Kef's voice was barely a whisper, "I'm detecting quantum field fluctuations around the planet. They're not just using their technology, they're rewriting the fundamental laws of physics in local space." The main display showed something that would haunt Vexthai's dreams for the rest of her very long life. Earth's surface had begun to shimmer, reality itself seeming to bend and flow like liquid. Human cities were transforming, their architecture shifting into impossible configurations that hurt to look at directly. "Strike Team Gamma, respond," Vexthai barked. Static. Then, impossibly, a human voice came through the comm. Calm, measured, speaking perfect hegemony standard. "This is Earth Collective, addressing the hegemony vessel Eternal Judgment. We appreciate your concern for our development, but we must respectfully decline your offer of conquest." Vexthai's throat went dry. "How are you accessing our communications?" "The same way you've been accessing ours for the past 3 centuries. We've been watching you watch us. It's been educational." The tactical displays showed Vexthai's strike teams, all of them, materializing in the Eternal Judgment's cargo bay, not transported, not rescued, simply appearing, as if space itself had folded to deliver them. "We're returning your personnel unharmed," the human voice continued, "though we did take the liberty of upgrading their immune systems. Consider it a gift." Vexthai's legs gave out. She collapsed into her command chair, staring at readings that suggested the impossible. "You're saying you've mastered spatial manipulation. Among other things, we've been having quite the conversation with your quantum consciousness experts." Dr. Thane was correct. "We have developed networked consciousness. What he didn't realize is that we've also developed something you haven't seen before, which is individual choice within collective awareness. We can be many and one simultaneously. It's a concept your species seems to struggle with." The display showed Earth's surface returning to normal, the impossible architecture fading back into familiar human cities. But Vexthai knew nothing would ever be the same. "We're curious about your hegemony," the voice continued. "A collective of species that conquered their way to unity. Fascinating approach. Terribly inefficient, but fascinating." Vexthai found her voice. "You're threatening us." "Threatening? No, we're offering perspective. You've spent millennia bringing order to the galaxy through conquest and assimilation. We've spent centuries learning to choose cooperation while maintaining individuality. Perhaps we could learn from each other." The communication ended, leaving Vexthai staring at her instruments in silence. Every reading suggested that Earth had just demonstrated technological capabilities that outstripped the hegemony's most advanced worlds. But they had done it without aggression, without conquest, without the systematic destruction of individual identity that had characterized every other advanced civilization the hegemony had encountered. "Commander," Kef whispered. The total engagement time was 14 minutes and 37 seconds. Vexthai closed her eyes. "File your report. Classification: unknown phenomena. Recommendation: immediate diplomatic contact." "What about the conquest protocols?" "What conquest protocols? We just made first contact with a civilization that casually rewrote local physics to return our strike teams unharmed. File it under humbling experiences and start drafting an apology." But even as she spoke, Vexthai felt a strange new sensation creeping through her consciousness. For the first time in 3 centuries, she was genuinely curious about another species. Not curious about how to conquer them or guide them, but curious about how they thought, how they had solved problems that had stumped the greatest minds in the galaxy. "Commander," Dr. Thane's voice carried a note of wonder. I'm reading something impossible. The quantum signatures from Earth, they're still connected to our ship. I think they're trying to communicate with us on a level we don't understand. Vex's thighs straightened in her chair. Explain. It's like they're offering to share their perspective, not through language or mathematics, but through direct experience. They want us to understand how individual choice and collective consciousness can coexist. The implications hit Vex's thigh like a physical blow. The hegemony had built its entire civilization on the assumption advancement required the surrender of individual identity to collective purpose. But the humans had somehow achieved the impossible. They had become more than the sum of their parts without losing their essential humanity. Accept the communication, she ordered. Commander, we don't know what it might do to us. Dr. Thane, we just watched a species rewrite the laws of physics to avoid harming us. I think we can trust them with our consciousness for a few minutes. The connection established itself gently, like warm sunlight on her skin. Suddenly, Vex's thigh could feel what it was like to be 7 billion minds choosing to work together while remaining distinct individuals. She experienced the exhilaration of collective problem-solving without the crushing weight of individual suppression that characterized hegemony. It lasted only moments, but when it ended, Vex's thigh understood why the humans had ended the war so quickly. They hadn't been defending themselves. They had been protecting the hegemony from making a mistake that would have destroyed both civilizations. Kef, she said softly, prepare a message for Hegemony Command. Tell them we've encountered something unprecedented, a species that has achieved true collective consciousness without sacrificing individual identity. Tell them we recommend immediate cessation of expansion protocols and requests permission to establish cultural exchange programs. Commander, the Hegemony Council will never approve such a radical change in policy. Vex's thigh smiled, an expression that had been foreign to her for decades. They will when they experience what we just experienced. The humans aren't just offering us a new perspective, they're offering us a way to become more than we ever imagined possible. As the eternal judgment began its journey home, Vex's thigh found herself looking forward to the future for the first time in centuries. The 14-minute war had ended not with victory or defeat, but with the promise of something entirely new, a civilization that had transcended the ancient choice between individual freedom and collective purpose. Behind them, Earth continued its lazy rotation, its 7 billion inhabitants going about their daily lives, unaware that they had just revolutionized galactic civilization by refusing to be conquered. They had instead offered something far more powerful than surrender. They had offered genuine partnership between equals. And in the depths of space, the hegemony's greatest military commander was already planning her first diplomatic mission.